ओ अन्तर्यश्च बहिर्विदूततिमिरं ज्योतिर्मयं शाश्वतं स्थानं प्राप्य विराजते विनमताम् अज्ञानमुन्मूलयन् पश्यन् विश्वमपीतमुल्लसति यो विश्वस्य पारे परः तस्मै श्रीरमणाय लोकगुरवे शोकस्य हन्त्रे नमः। कर्तुराज्ञया प्राप्यते फलं कर्म किं परं कर्म तज्जडं कृतिमहोददौ पतनकारणं फलमशाश्वतं गतिनिरोधकम् ईश्वरार्पितं नेच्छया कृतं चित्तशोधकं मुक्तिसाधकं कायवान्मनः कार्यमुत्तमं पूजनं जपश्चिन्तनं क्रमात् जगदईषधी युक्तसेवनम् अष्टमूर्तिभृदेवपूजनम् उत्तमस्तवादुच्चमन्दतः चित्तजं जप ध्यानमुत्तमम् आज्यधारया श्रोतसा समं सरलचिन्तनं विरलदपरं भेदभावना सोऽहमित्यसौ पावनि भावना भावनाभिधा पावनीमता भावशून्यसद्भावसुस्थितिः भावनाबलाद् भक्तिरुत्तमा हृत्स्थले मनः स्वस्थता क्रिया भक्तियोगबोधाश्च निश्चितं वायुरोदनात् लीयते मनः जालपक्षिवत् रोदसाधनम् चित्तवायवश्चित्क्रियायुताः शाकयोर्द्वयी शक्तिमूलका लयविनाशने उभयरोदने लयगतं पुनर्भवति नोऽमृतं प्राणबन्धनात् लीनमानसम् एकचिन्तनात् नाशमेत्यतः नष्टमानसः उत्कृष्टयोगिनः कृत्यमस्ति किं स्वस्तितिं गतः स्वस्तितिं यतः दृश्यवारितं चित्तमात्मनः चित्त्वदर्शनं तत्त्वदर्शनं मानसं तु किं मार्गणे कृते नैव मानसं मार्ग आर्जवात् वृत्तयस्त्वहं वृत्तिमाश्रिताः वृत्तयो मनो विद्यहं मनः अहमयं कुतो भवति चिन्वतः अयि पतत्यहं निजविचारणम्। aham patati, aham vrittihi patati. Aham yed vrittirupena tishtati tat patati. Aham iti atmaswarupena yat tishtati tat sthito bhavati. Tishtati. Vrittirupena aham, atmarupena aham. The thought in the form of, and the I in the form of a thought, and I in the form of awareness. These are the two things one come to realize when one starts to inquire the nature or the source of the mind. Thoughts circle around aham vritti. Thoughts are, as we have seen, without the objects there cannot be thought. In fact, thought is nothing but objects plus consciousness. When I am seeing a flower, the flower is the object, and I, the conditioned consciousness, which is using the mind and the eyes as the equipments, comes to comprehend the flower, and then therefore a pushpa vritti, a flower thought arises in my mind. Arises. Now, when I remove the flower from perception, still the aham, the consciousness, is identifying with the eyes still. My eyes can be open, but I may not be seeing anything. Just like some of your ears are open, but you are not listening to anything. My eyes can be open, but I need not be seeing anything. Sometimes you might have seen people gazing at something, actually they are not seeing. Hello? Yes. Eyes are open, there is no flower or no object is actually perceived. So the aham vritti, not necessarily having to have an object external. It can be thus identified with an equipment, like here the eyes, and even in the absence of the identification with the eyes, ears, etc., it can be identified with the mind. And it can be a memory. It can be a past thought. That is also an object of consciousness. In other words, aham vritti is an identified consciousness. Consciousness having certain identification of a limited nature, so to say. So it is easy to not see anything, an object outside. Perhaps when the dehatma bhava is not there in this time of dream or deep sleep, we cannot say aham vritti is not there. Aham vritti is still there. Even when a person goes to deep sleep, aham vritti continues as I don't know. So when does the vritti stop while aham would continue? So that is what is here taken up. Aham ayam kutaha. Ayam aham kutaha. From where does this aham vritti arriving from or sourced from? Iti chinvataha, when it is inquired upon, only then one comes to recognize the source of vritti, aham vritti, is aham. The pure awareness with no identification. Now, let me briefly talk to you about object and identification. Without an identification, no object can be perceived. If I am identified with my body, then objects that are perceived by the senses can be known. If I am identified with my mind, then emotions and feelings, etc., can be known. If I am identified with my intellect, then my thoughts and ideas and opinions can be known. So, at any given point of time, aham is identified with something or the other through which objects are experienced. Even in the dream state of dream, it definitely identified with the subtle body and then experiences the dream. In the case of a person who is in deep sleep, he is identified with the causal body, experiencing the continuous thought of, or continuous one stream of thought called I don't know. Even that needs to stop. And the enquiry is, therefore, vritti, this aham vritti, tasya moolam kim? Ayam kutaha bhavati? Ayam aham vritti kutaha bhavati? From what it has come? Iti chinvataha, iti vicharane. When it is this vichara is taken up, oh, aham vritti patati. That vritti also ends. This is nija vicharanam. Nija is swa vicharanam. Nija is meaning swa. Nija can be, one meaning is true. Another meaning is nija also swa. Nija swarupam, when you say, it's a swarupam. So, swa vicharanam, self-enquiry. So here, this is the most subtle aspect of the Jnana Marga. The difficulty is because it is not an external thing to inquire, it is inquiry upon one's own reality. To inquire whether that is what is seen is a snake and what is the background of that snake is a rope, where both the rope and the snake are external to us, therefore the inquiry can be done objectively. Whereas here, the wrong perception and that is superimposition, and on which it is superimposed, both are self only. Both are one's own being. Therefore, the inquiry has to be conducted within quietly, and that requires a very calm and extremely subtle intellect, or extremely subtle, yes, that is why it is said, Sudhi, a intellect which is refined so well and undisturbed. So this Atma Vichar or Swavichar, Nija Vicharanam, that leads to a discovery of the awareness, pure consciousness, which is acting as the source of aham vritti. So, this is why Ramana Maharshi says that is called Jnana Marga. Now, how far the Upanishads can help you here? Upanishad helps you, first of all, to assert the existence of pure consciousness as Brahman. Upanishads help you to negate what is not Brahman. And in that way, proving that the Panchakoshas are not you, Trivida Shariras are not you, and those teachings are very helpful to eliminate wrong identifications, and upon elimination of them, there should not be any emptiness. Therefore, positive assertion of the Brahman and its qualities are also explained in various ways. And thus, a person who has gained enough knowledge through Shravanam and clarity through Mananam and repeated attempt to abide in the higher self, Nididhyasan, would be able to finally reach that state of awareness, unqualified, unconditional. So, when you say that this awareness is recognized, what does it mean? I can understand an experience as good and bad, right and wrong, joy, sorrow, pleasant and unpleasant. What do you call as the experience of the self? Or what is it and how is it experienced? Where? So that is explained in the verse number 20. Ahaminashabhajahamaham taya Spurati Hritsvayam Paramapurnasat. Ahaminashabhajahamaham taya Spurati Hritsvayam Paramapurnasat. Ahami Nasha Bhaji Bhage. At the time when the destruction of the Ahamvritti, which is here referred as Ahankar, the Ahankar is nothing but an identifying consciousness, consciousness subject to identification with something, I thought or Ahamvritti. So, Ahaminashabhaji, Swayam, Hrit, in the very heart, Hridi Swayam, Spurati. Spurati throbs. In what way it shines forth or throbs? Aham, aham, aham iti. Aham, aham, aham taya, in the form of I. This I is not of any particular quality or qualification, and only thing we can say as the nature of this I is Paramapurna Sat. Paramapurna Sat means supremely complete. It is Purna. It is fulfilling, complete, one without a second, of the highest nature, as existence. I am, as existence. But I know that I exist. So what is that new thing that I am going to get out of this, one may ask. Our awareness of existence is always with respect to something we are identified with. as a body, as a thought, as a notion, as an idea, as a person, as a man, as a human, as a breathing, living being. If you go and ask somebody, do you exist? Yes. As what? Immediately he has to or she has to tell about as what? As a human, as a living being. So our our idea of existence is definitely with respect to something which we are identified with. But without any identification of any particular name, form, or qualification, an existence without any quality, that is Paramapurna Sat. Now, if I see an object existing, a plate is existing, or a towel is existing, or a computer is existing, I always look at it with the form. Even if I don't know the name of that object, I can see the form of the object. So if I don't know a thing which is there, I don't know what it is. From a distance, because of the poor light or whatever, I see something, but I don't know what it is. The light is not clear on that. It is not falling on that object. Therefore, something is there, I don't know what it is. But therefore, I see the form, I don't know the name. So it is possible for me to cognize an existence without a name. All right. Now, a thought arises in my mind which the form of which is not an external object. It doesn't have a physical form. When I say I am upset, or I am angry, or I am jealous, or I have love, what form it is? It's not a form, physical form. But I know it exists. So that existence of an emotion, a feeling, is also experienced, but need not have to have any particular form. So, as you go closer to yourself, a physical object may have a form and name. I don't know the name, but I still see the form. When it comes to thought or emotions, they don't have a form, but I know its existence. Similarly, I have a desire. What form it takes, it doesn't take a form. I have a desire for something. Can I give a form for it? No. So as we go closer, subtler and subtler as we go, it loses the name, form aspects of it, but I know its existence. Similarly, as it comes to awareness, it doesn't have anything that you know of, but it is. So that is the reason why here Ramana Maharshi says Spurati. The word Spurati, Spuranam, is a very, very interesting word, because in English it can be said as spurring. It has that vibrant presence. And that vibrant presence is something which every living being knows but cannot express. So here Guruji also writes there, in order to grasp the meaning of the following verse, it is necessary to comprehend the important fact. Meaning the next verse is going to be an advanced understanding from here. To avoid the misunderstanding that the self is finite, the adjective supreme infinite existence is used. It means that the self, like the ego, is not limited by time, space, etc. So, till now we saw two meanings of the word I, the ego. This sense of identity is felt only in our body and not in objects or being outside the body. Because of this notion in the body alone, man becomes extremely selfish. When this I expands to the family, etc., it becomes a little more, thinned down. So, however, the one's field of identification may expand, it becomes impossible for a limited ego to identify with the entire cosmos. So, to identify with the entire cosmos, the being that identifies the totality, that is as a notion of I in the entire cosmos, is the third I called Ishwara. I, the awareness, I, the ego, which is as a limited identity, I, Ishvara, as an unlimited identity. See, when it comes to unlimited identity, it's as good as not having identity, really speaking. Isn't it? What is the size of your body? The universe. Then, how can anybody see it? Akashah eva mama deha. Akasham mama shariram. The entire space is my body. Then, who will be able to see you? So, the total identity is equal to no identity. Real. Samashti ahankar is as good as na ahankar. Absence of identity. But then, so the equation is, when you see your own self with no identity, it is equal to that I, which is total identity. That is the reason why Jiva Ishwar Aikyatvam is pointed out. The identity between the total cosmos, identified with the total cosmos, Ishvara, and the one which has no identity at all as individual Atman, the self, they are equated. So the expansion towards that infinity. Zero and infinity are equal or not? You can say no. Zero is absence. Right? So absence is not equal to infinity. Right? Absence is not equal to infinity. But what we mean by Purnam, the word Purnam is infinite, no doubt, but it is included in which everything is included. And that is the reason why in some of the Indian languages the zero is called Pujyam. Pujyam means what? Worthy of worship. Which does not have anything to itself, is also Pujyam. It doesn't have an identity. It is also Pujyam only. So Purnam is that in which everything is included, nothing is left outside, it encompasses everything. And therefore, it has lost its own identity. Somebody said that somebody gave a check And Swamiji, what amount should I write? I said, you just put 1. I will put as many zeros I want. So 0 has value or not? Huh? 0 has value or not? If I put 1 0, it's only $10. If I put one more 0, it is 10 times that. If I put one more 0, it's 100 times that. If I put another 0, it becomes 1,000 times that. So don't say 0 has no value. But it is a careful thing here. 0 by itself has no value unless it has something in front of it. Isn't that true? You cannot put 0 and then there is a value. No, it's not. You have to have 1. So similarly, that 1 is Ishwar. And all the zeros are the jivas. The jivas are only because of presence of that 1. If the 1 is not there, you are useless. So here, once one has realized the aham in one's own heart as pure awareness, that very awareness, identified with the entire infinite universe, is referred as Ishvaraha. When you look at with the Upadi, obviously it is the Lord, who is controlling the entire creation. But when that very Brahman, the self, with not identifying with the entire cosmos, with no identity, sitting in your own heart, is also the same one only. So that's why it said, hey Arjuna, understand, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe tishtati. It is sitting in everybody's heart. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishtaha matta smriti jnanam apohanam cha. I am sitting in the heart of everyone, which is Krishna also said. So here, continuing this I, individual I, which is aham vritti, when it is merging in the aham, which is pure sat, paramapurna sat. So what happens then? That is said in the verse number 21. Idamaham pada bhikyamanvaham ahamilina ke pyalaya sattaya idamaham pada bhikyamanvaham ahamilina ke pyalaya sattaya. Idam aham padam. Iham aham pada abhikyam. Abhikyam, known as, called as. Sanyam is known. Namena jatam. Aham namena jatam. Aham padena jatam. Jnatam, known as aham. So this one, which is known as aham, idamaham pada bhikyam, anu aham, and anu means following. Aham, that merger of the I vritti, aham vritti, when it is merging into the pure consciousness, ahamileenake, that I also, api, alayasatya, alayasatya. Laya means to disappear, to destroy, get destroyed. Alaya, indestructible, unchanging. Sattaya, as pure self. Following the merger of the individual I, in individual I, the Amriti, that when is merged into the pure I, in the total I merges. The total I merges. This, which is called as the true I, shines due to indestructible nature. Now, what does that mean? When I, the pure consciousness, is realized upon Ahamvritti merging into that, the world as an external reality no more remains. Because the total I, which is Ishvara, and Ishvaratva of the Ishvara is because of the identification of the I with the Jagat. When the I is known as the same I which is so-called Ishvara of the universe, when that is realized, as much as the individual Jiva disappears, along with the disappearance of the Jiva, the Ahamvritti, there is disappearance of the world as the Upadi of Ishvara. What remains thereafter is only one I, and that is the reason why one is able to say Aham Ishvara. In what sense? Because the Ishvaratva of the Ishvara is because of Jagat as the Upadi. Jivatva of the Jiva is because of this Deha as the Upadi. When the Deha Upadi Vilaye, Jagat Upadi Vilayeha Abhi Bhavati. Just like a person who has gone into the state of sleep has not only dissolved himself, he has dissolved the world also at the same time. When a person comes to wake up to the individual I, at the same time the world also is seen to be woken up for him. Bhagavan Ramana, Bhagavan Shankaracharya says very clearly there, Nahyasya vidya manaso vidirikta manohya vidya bhavabandha hetuhu tasmin vinashte sakalam vinashtam. Manasi vinashte sakalam vinashtam. Sakalam vishwambhavi vinashtam. The world also disappears. Vichrumbide asmin, when this wakes up, sakalam vichrumbade. Everything wakes up. So, to a person who has thus realized the I in himself, he realizes the Ishvara is also that I only, and Ishvaratva and Jivatva are I plus. The I plus, whatever you put in next to the I is what makes it what it is. If you put I plus the individual body, mind, intellect, it's Jiva. Otherwise, you put I plus all BMI, then it becomes Ishvara. Right? That's why I said 1, you can put 0, it's only 10. If I put some 100 zero, that is a world then, universe. So all that will add to become the universe. So when you put 1 0, then it's limited there. So here, this is not to say you are Ishvara. None of us can claim. You can say that me and Ishvara Amsha is the same. What makes Ishwar Ishwar, what makes me is one and the same. But the Ishwaratva of the Lord is because of his ability to control the entire universe. Whereas Jivatva of me is my identification with the limited aspect of the matter. But that which is identifying with the limited individuality, that which is identifying with the entire cosmos, that one is the same. In that way, one is able to dissolve the totality into oneself. Now, Ramana Maharshi's point of view has been always through his teaching is whenever people ask about a problem with respect to something happening in the world, something happening, he said, all this will end when you know who you are. You see, until you don't realize who you are, this problem can never be solved. Do you think solving one problem will solve all problems? A situation in a particular part of the world or whatever will be, that situation can be solved. Do you think another situation will not arise? It will be there. And because we are not able to solve all the problems that you come to see in everyday life, you will be always miserable only. You think this problem is solved, I am happy. Wait for some more time, another will come now. As Gurudev would say, when you came away from India, India's problem solved, but the American problem started. Do you think that by moving to place or doing something else, any kind of such external adjustment will not solve the fundamental issue? That's why he said, Krishna says, Arjun, okay, you don't want to fight. Do you think that you will be happy in sitting in a solitude? Do you think that is going to happen? In fact, you will curse me. That I unnecessarily took you away from the war field. Don't we see children sometimes, they say, when they, when they make mistake, and then they come to the parents and say, you should have told me at that time. At that time you are not listening, even if I told you. That's why it is said that, when your son stops listening to you, you realize that was the condition of your father when you were at like your son's age. When your son doesn't listen to you, you appreciate your father. I gave this much of misery to my father. At least this fellow is giving less, actually, I would say. You realize that you have given similar trouble to your dad. Anyway, so whenever Ramana Maharshi was asked this question, how to solve that problem as well as this problem, I understand you are the problem. First solve that problem first. Then you will see what happens. So the final solution is only in recognizing that the I, the consciousness which I am, is the same one which is referred as Ishvaraha with respect to the entire world as this body. And in essence, we are one and the same. So, you mean to say, Swamiji, by realizing the self, problems are solved? No, problems are not solved. Then they are dissolved. See, it is one thing to solve a problem, another is to dissolve a problem. Let us say I have a problem with another person who is constantly insulting me or whatever. Right? It's a problem for me. Yes. How are you going to solve it? I have to do something about it. Okay, what are you going to do? I have to teach him a lesson. Do you think that he will listen to you? No, I have to teach him a lesson that what he is doing is wrong. And then? No, you will learn at least that he made what he said or what he is doing is wrong. Do you think he will stop? I think so. You cannot be sure, right? No. So then, I can attempt at least. I'll tell you a better thing for you to do. What? Dissolve your ego. Once you dissolve your ego, then it's not a problem about him only. You'll lose all problems then. It's not the one individual you need to correct. If he is gone, somebody else will come to do the same thing to you. But when you have dissolved your ego, then whoever be in front of you, they can't touch you. Which is better? That is what Ramana Maharshi's approach is. Don't solve this 1, 2, 3, 4 here. It will never end. That's why he asks, who has the problem? Go and attack that one. Go to the root of it. So, idam aham pada abhikyam anu aham ahamilinake. Ahami, in the dissolvement of that individual I merging into that high consciousness, in that case, the total I identified with the total Ishvara, also seen to be the same. Alayasattaya tishtati. Alayasattaya, with the alaya, which is an indestructible nature, it remains. With the destruction of the individual ego, the total ego also too merges into the pure self, free from all conditioning, individual and total. The pure self is called aham. It is really nameless, formless, and indestructible. So, such an individual, wherever he is placed, whatever place or whatever condition he or she remains, he will remain the same. You know, Sri Ramana Maharshi or Sri Swami Tapovanam, Sri Rameshna Paramahamsa, they never moved out of their place. They never traveled. Why? They hate traveling or COVID? No. They say, where to go? And for what? So going to another place or going to different places, what am I going to experience? Externally, there may be so many things to experience, but the I, which is remaining same everywhere, doesn't need change of place. It is the same. On having realized that one, which is unchanging, unmoving, indestructible one, then thereafter, moving about places as is only optional. It's a choice, but it's not a requirement. And so when they realize that, bas, never move out of that place. And they are not even bothered whether anybody is interested to come to them or not. They don't go looking for people. Nisargadatta Maharaj also never, he just stayed in one place. And but because of their total abidance and steadfastness, the world came to them. The world looked for them. People, seekers came looking for such a Mahatma. So that total contentment, total abidance, total fulfillment, they gained and remained in their own being. Swamiji, will they not get bored? We need entertainment, Movies, dresses, parties, music, yevo. What entertainment they get out of this? Atmanyev atmana tuttaha. The joy is, incomparable, and we cannot even comprehend that. Any amount of explanation, any kind of comparison we can give, but still we do not comprehend, realize how joyful and blissful to be there. And another thing is, this joy of being, joy of realization is so deep, and they say we don't have much time to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and they keep going in that. The travel in within themselves is so deep, and they say, we never ever get bored. Because if nobody is disturbing, we are lost, we are gone. We go deeper into ourselves, and then journey is everlasting journey and most fulfilling journey. And so we think they are getting bored. We are only getting bored because we are only swimming on the surface, where they have gone deep into themselves, and further deep they go, and the joy is unsurmountable. That is the reason why that world also dissolves as far as this Mahatma is concerned. They may look indifferent when you go to them with worldly issues. Udasinavat asinaha. They remain indifferent to this whole thing because they know the solving one or solving few is not going to stop the problem. Yeah, so many people are busy with doing that. Let them do it. There's nothing wrong in that. They find their joy in that. Good. It is like your child playing a video game, and he, let us say, he or she had won a game. So hard. Daddy, what? I was the max. I got the max out of this. The game. I am in the top team. You definitely will congratulate that boy. But you look at it and said, what did finally you get out of this? No monetary gain out of that, obviously. And it doesn't make you a better student. But it is something which you feel accomplished. That boy feels accomplished. Good. But from your standpoint, it is just a time pass. It is just a mere preoccupation of the mind. Fine. From your standard, that has nothing, no value. From that child's standpoint, it has a lot of, because he can go and tell his friends also, you know what? I'm in the top team. Top scorer I am. He feels proud, he feels accomplished. So also in the worldly standpoint, everything looks important. Accomplishing that or completing this. But then from the standpoint of a Mahatma, ठीक है, सर्वम तुच्छम. Bhuma eva sukam. In that Bhuma, in that Brahma Sukam, that alone is absolute. Tad vidiriktam sarvam alpam. Other than that, it is alpam only. Little limited. So, that is the reason why the Mahatma who has thus realized the self, for him the world is merely a mithya. It's there. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. Then Brahman alone is true. The world, whatever it is worth, is mithya. Samaloshtashma Kanchana, said in Gita also. An individual to whom everything is same. Loshta Ashma Kanchana. Stone, gold, mud. Tulya Nindastutir Moni. Santushto Yena Kenachit. Aniketa Stiramadihi. Bhaktiman me priya naraha. Bhagavan Krishna in many places has compared yogi with a bhakta, bhakta with a jnani, jnani with gunatita purusha, siddha prajna. So from his standpoint, a bhakta, a yogi, a jnani, a gunatita purusha, or a sthira prajna, they are all at the equal footing. They all express the same characteristics of samatvam, of sameness, of contentment, of udasinata. It's because of their ability to rise above what is concerning and what is important from the worldly standpoint for others. So here, next one is the inquiry into the self is a constant process. Until one gains that one-pointed abidance in the self, the process of negating what is earlier considered as oneself, the negation process is a continuous process, and one should not relax. And the life of contemplation, therefore, is not just reading books. It is as and when the thought about strong identification with any of the individual personality arises, there and then one has to negate it, not wait for some time. I am identified with the body. I think today at around 7 o'clock I will start the negation process. It is not to be done, and okay, I think 6 o'clock I can do. From 6 onwards I can do, yeah. It's not to be done as a mechanical routine. Yato yato nischarati manas chanchalam astiram. Whenever the mind moves out, So therefore, here Ramana Maharshi would talk about the negation, when and how it should be done, which we will see in the next class. Okay. We'll end it and then I'll come back to you. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhavet. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Anybody has questions?